Been a while since I've had to get the first video jitters out of the way. Hello guys, this is UniversalGiant, and welcome back for more of another Metroid 2 remake, AM2R. Last time, we landed on planet SR388, killed ourselves a Metroid, and started heading through the Golden Temple over here. Today, we hit a bit of a wall, and we need to figure out how we can climb said wall. And luckily enough, our save plopped us right next to a thing we need to climb walls! You thought the Spider Ball originated in Metroid Prime, didn't you? I know I did. But it didn't! Now, unlike Metroid Prime where you can only use the Spider Ball against a specific track, in this game, you can use it on any wall. Doesn't matter where it is, doesn't matter where it's from, you can use it. Now, of course, to compensate for that, the Spider Ball is much slower than pretty much any other form of movement. However, you do need it to access certain locations in order to progress. So we saw the casing for the Metroid larva down there. This is probably where it came from. So again, because my controls are terrible and I refuse to change them, a lot of these fights are going to be silly. And like in Metroid Prime, they programmed in the charge beam to draw in pickups for you. It's a nice little touch I didn't really think was necessary, because it was really only necessary in the Prime series because it's difficult to pick up small items in a 3D space. And in 2D it's a lot easier to just pick up items because you're on the same plane all the time. But it makes things a little bit easier. And as you can see, these little guys are spinning around the ceiling, so we'll want to avoid them. Taking any damage as the Spider Ball will knock you off wherever you're crawling to, and this is a long way to have to come back. But thankfully, we're rewarded. Could we have come back here later and gotten this a little more quickly? Yes. But I'm impatient, and I hope you are too. I think that's pretty much all we can do here at this point. I know there is a little place that we can go near where we got the Spider Ball. I'm pretty sure there's something there, but at this point, we're gonna have to come back here anyway, and I just feel like moving on. I don't know about you. So we picked up some missiles, we picked up some energy tanks, we picked up the charge beam, we picked up the morph ball bombs, we picked up the Spider Ball. I'd say we got a lot of stuff here. So let's see if we can take all the stuff that we picked up and move on. Oh, you know what? There was that one area after the first save point in there that we could go now that we have the morph ball bombs. How about we do that instead? This game is a funny little way of showing you that you haven't finished an area because you haven't experienced an earthquake yet. We've already seen... I guess we can do this to skip it. You're supposed to go down that way, but wall kicks! The breeding grounds. This area spans a custom-built ecosystem that favors the growth of Metroids. The terrain itself is dangerous. Tendrils growing along the ground release extremely corrosive chemicals. Opportunistic predators and scavengers can recognize this as an ideal feeding ground, taking advantage of injured or dead animals. The presence of at least one Metroid is expected when venturing in these habitats. The tendrils are determined to be of artificial origin. Synthesized through technologically advanced methods, they absorb nutrients from dead matter. So it's important to note, these things hurt you. They absorb your energy, just like the Metroids do. And the interesting thing is, they're synthetically made. And of course, we would expect to find nothing less than... Where are you, buddy? Here you are. So you may remember from the Fusion arc that there's this thing called the X-Parasite. If you don't remember it from Fusion, it's probably easier to just watch it, but they like infecting things and essentially controlling them. So, you may also remember Metroids. I'm holding the wrong button, aren't I? X-Parasites don't like Metroids. So I guess it goes to show, if you want to make something that to deal with the X-Parasites, make something like the Metroids. And that's exactly what previous inhabitants of this planet did. So these breeding grounds are essentially areas for the Metroids to breed, feed, and grow. So anytime you enter an area like this, you have an idea what to expect. But again, I'm going to look like I have the stiffest controls on the planet because of the way my controls are. You're just gonna sit there, buddy? I'm gonna need you to move at least a little bit. Here we go. These obviously get more difficult as you go on. And their movement wasn't as agile or smart in the original games. But of course, because we have modern 2D Samus, we're capable of doing a lot of things that Game Boy Samus wasn't able to do. So they had to update the AI and strength of a lot of the enemies we encounter here. And given all that, it still feels like a really natural fight. It's just as difficult as the original, and... I don't think something wants us to leave. Oh, it's still scanning, there we go. Ancient Guardian. This sentry deploys spike barriers and corners targets into its firing range. Its archaic design constrains it to operate at low power, preventing simultaneous use of its shield and mobility systems, so it can't do both at the same time. Its arsenal consists of energy weapons with unique patterns. The robot was calibrated to detect foreign creatures bearing stolen equipment. Oops. Recent earthquakes seem to have damaged the traction of the unit and spike barriers. Despite complications, it remains a considerable threat. So each kind of attack that it has, it's going to be signaled with a different color of its eyes. And it has quite a few different attacks. But you'll see it's incapable of moving and attacking at the same time. So if you remember which attack is which, and you dodge out of the way, you'll have no problem with this thing. The problem is, as the fight goes on, the arena is going to get smaller. So you're going to have a lot less room to work with. But this is one of the things that I think AM2R did really well, in that the feeling of claustrophobia that you get it's not because that fight is on a timer, but as you deal more damage, the spike walls will move in closer to you. So it'll feel like it's on a timer, and it'll increase the amount of stress that you feel, and all that fun stuff. There is something up there I'd like to get if I can get it. It's going to be a bit tricky to get it at this point, or at least trickier than it would be later. I guess I can do that. I've never been good at jumping into a spider ball like that, but there's a section up here that we can do now. It's a bit trickier to do now, but you can do it now if you want to. There's one thing up here we can't do, and if you've ever played a 2D Metroid before, you know what the yellow door means. But we can still get this missile tank now if we want it. I feel like I'm being hypocritical getting some things now, but leaving others for later, when there's really no rhyme or reason to it. But you can see now the lava is drained. So since we defeated all of the Metroids in the Golden Temple breeding grounds, we can progress forward. Since the lava down here is gone. And I guess one other thing I should mention is that there are a number of things that would have been blocking our way had we decided to come down here earlier, even with the lava there. So usually, the lava is not the only thing obstructing your path. If you want to, you can tank some of the damage and walk through the lava like it is water, no problem. The issue becomes there's usually a rock wall in the way, or in this case, bomb blocks as well. Now these things will keep spawning green things until we destroy the nest itself that it's coming from, and I think there's a thing either here or here. And this puzzle in particular is really interesting considering you don't really... I don't want to use the spider ball if I don't have to. Now one thing that's interesting to note is that the spider ball does not break these blocks. So if you have the spider ball active on this block, it won't break. So the idea of this puzzle is to juggle your way all the way up to the top. And I'll give this a couple of tries, but it's a lot more difficult than the way you can get it later on, and the prize isn't going to blow your socks off. But I still think it's worth trying. Obviously, you can get that easier later. But there is one other secret in this area that we can't get that way, at least not yet. And if you're really in a hurry, this is a missile block. So I forget if it's over here or if it's probably back up. I can't do it anyway, so I'm probably not going to go back for it yet. You can see these things are just going to keep firing stuff out of the nest. So what you have to do is destroy the nest. And then they're gone. But the fastest form of movement, at least for now, is the morph ball, so you'll probably see me using the morph ball a whole bunch. But again, with each new area, we have more Metroids to destroy. And... what's wrong? There aren't any little bug dudes coming out. Oh, there's a big bug dude! If you can get a chain going on that guy, they go down like nothing. But now we can see the larva shell. There it is. Sneaky guy. I believe there's some stuff up here, too. But we've entered a new area, the hydro station. The passive facility at the center of this reservoir pumps water through enormous pipelines. The pipes come out of the complex and disappear into the surrounding rocks, presumably to supply other buildings further down the cave system with clean water. Though abandoned, most of it remains functional. Robotic activity is detected inside. I keep pressing the wrong button. I promise this is likely the last time I'll be using the spider ball to go all the way around something. But, I mean, this is something I always do, but if memory serves, I think we want to go in this way first. Well, save point isn't helping us. Now you may also notice this game has a lot of good music. At least I did. You may also notice if you've played previous Metroid games before, this game has the Shoot Out Shine Spark, where if you hold a charge and spin jump, you can do some damage to an enemy like you could with a normal Shine Spark, but you'll still take damage too. There's our save point. Let's at least see if there's anything else we can do while we're here. I forget if we can go down yet. Maybe we can. Probably not the best idea since our mobility in water is limited. But we can make our way down here, and if we're careful, we can destroy these stupid fan things. But this is another one of my favorite tracks in the game. Probably the first instance of one of my favorite tracks so far. And the morph ball in the water is, for some reason, fast. Hi, buddy! Please get stun locked again, that'd be great. You're just gonna sit there? You knew I was here to kill him. But here's your gimmick of the Hydro Station! Remember those pipes in that other room? They lead us to different places, just like this different place. Now we can also destroy those guys and are rewarded with nothing! Except this thing, whatever it happens to be. That's a beautiful animation. Now, I guess one other thing I didn't mention is that there are a number of different control things that you can change, preferences and such, like whether or not you automatically grab a ledge, whether or not you have a dedicated ball to go into the morph immediately. There are a lot of different things that you can do to customize your experience. And I highly recommend you play with it if it's your first time and you're not really sure what works for you. Try a couple things out. For instance, it makes spider balling out of a jump onto a wall a lot easier if you have morph ball set to a specific button. That's not the direction I wanted to go, and you know it. Game! One day I'll get out, I promise. Now the thing about the spider ball... I forget what I was going to say about the spider ball. We'll remember eventually, I promise. One thing we will want to do is go up here, though, because we may have seen a missile when we came into the room. And if we go all the way back out, you can see that there's still a hollow circle up at the top of this shaft. Now, hollow circles always indicate that there's a secret there we haven't gotten yet, although I believe there's one particular room in this area where some element of the map overwrites the secret, so it doesn't tell you a secret is there even though it's there. I know where it is, and I almost always remember it anyway. But if you're playing for the first time and trying to figure out where it is, that may be where. We've gotten a decent way into the hydro station. I think there's still a couple of things we'll want to pick up before moving on, but you may have noticed there's no more water out here. Since we drained the water down there, all the water that was outside is now gone, so we're free to explore at our leisure, which we'll do next time. This is UniversalGiant, and I'll see you then.